Before we get to today's episode 469 with Donna Kerr, as you've become used to, here's our opening poem. The old newsroom was never really about the news. It was about ordinary people trying to rescue one more moment from being forgotten. Before midnight became yesterday. Welcome to the Art Box Podcast, where creativity lives, but more importantly, where stories are told. I'm your host, Steve, and here we believe every piece of art carries a story, and every artist has one worth sharing. From theater and song to archaeology and to our public lands, we explore the many ways creativity shows up in the world around us. Because I'm always happy to view a work of art, but I'm never fully satisfied until I've heard the story behind it. That's what we're all about, unpacking the journeys, the moments, the people, and the meaning that bring art to life. So whether you're an artist, a storyteller, or simply curious, pull up a chair. Let's open the box.
Oh, effortlessly beautiful. There's Venus in being you.
Welcome, Donna Kerr.
Thank you.
Hi, Donna. Thank you for coming in to the STEAM Center this morning.
Thanks.
And thank you for coming in on a Saturday.
Hey, I loved it. I got a great tour of the STEAM Center, and this is a great place that I didn't even know existed. So
Yeah, it's interesting that there's a lot of people who don't know we have an art gallery.
Yes, I've seen that. I love that.
Yeah, ask people about the Women's Center. Probably 95% of the people don't know that.
I took some classes there, and they've done a wonderful job with that, too. And even the little history museum, the Donkey Museum, there are so many great programs here and classes that I don't know if people are aware of those. I've really enjoyed them.
So, Donna, welcome to the Art Box.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
You said you grew up in a newsroom of the Salt Lake Tribune. Can you paint that picture for us? Because I'm going back to some movies that I saw, and that's what I know about a newsroom. I know pneumatic tubes and all that. So what was it like, and how old were you?
Well, it was from the time, really, that I was probably 6, 7, 8, up until about 15, 16, and it truly was the golden age of journalism during that time. And I would say that was during the 1960s and early 70s. And my father started working at the Salt Lake Tribune in 1958 as an obituary writer. He just really needed a job. They had a brand new baby, and he had gone to school at Utah State University and got hired right out of... Well, he stopped school so that he could go to work for the Tribune. He loved it, and we often spent time with him there. And I would sit on this yellow Naugahyde couch with the silver arms in front of the newsroom coffee machine, and I would watch those men work. People like Dan Mooney and Ray Herbat and Dick Rosetta, a lot of different really newsroom greats. And my dad eventually became an editor, commentator, columnist for them. And the dynamics between the fascinating creative people that worked there just really held my attention. And it really was like a big family. I mean, that sounds kind of cheesy, but it was. And we had great events together with the Tribune. And Dad would take me to the press room, the resource room. We would call them and see if we could see the research room for resources. We would call them and see if we could trip them up. To see if we could ask a question that they couldn't answer. And I'm here to tell you, we did not.
Oh, really?
Yes. It was the newsroom at the time was all one great big room, and there were columns in the pneumatic tubes. And I learned really quick when it was okay to talk to somebody and when it was not. And so very often I would sit there and wait for my dad to get off work and just soak it all in. It was a wonderful time. I said Dan Mooney, but I meant John Mooney. I can remember walking down the long hall in the Tribune building, and they had many, many historical photos lining the walls, and I loved to look at those. My dad would take me down to watch them pull the newspapers off of the press, and I think I told you that recently I was going through some of my dad's belongings. He's passed away now, and found a newspaper about the Kennedy assassination that was printed by the Salt Lake Tribune, and my dad would have been working there at that time, and I feel really sure that he probably went down and pulled that right off the press. And there was another one advertising the Cuban Missile Crisis. Not advertising, but a news story about the Cuban Missile Crisis. I'm sure he went right down and took them right off the press. So anyway, I kind of got ink in my blood while I was there.
Oh yeah, that had to be great. Would you just go there after school, or
not after school so much, but
or you just skip school and you just...
No, it was during the summer, and we actually moved from downtown Salt Lake City to Newcastle, Utah. Population 200 until we got there, and then it was 206. He eventually went back to the Tribune, and we had a lot of family up there. My mom and dad were both from Ogden, Utah. And so I would go stay with family, and just kind of, he would shuttle us back and forth from northern Utah to southern Utah and back again. That meant we had to wait. Sometimes I would go to the Golden Eagles hockey games and sit near the press box, and they would bring us hot dogs and drinks and popcorn. And one time Ray Herbat left me at a baseball game. He didn't actually leave. He started to pull out of the driveway and remembered that I'd gone there with him. And he came right back and got me. I think it scared him way more than it scared me, because I didn't mind. I loved to go and watch the people. So, yeah, it was a great adventure for me to be able to watch those people work. And they were wonderful people.
No, I'm sure. And my only experience is from the movies. So
right.
Did everybody everybody wore long sleeves and had their sleeves rolled up and smoking cigarettes? And
oh, yeah. My dad got thyroid cancer at one point, and they all sent him a get well card. But before they sent it to him, they stomped on it and put cups of coffee on it and smashed their cigarettes out on it. And at that time, everybody in the newsroom was a smoker, you know. They thought that was cute. And I can remember going to lunch with those guys. They just played off of each other's humor. They were so fun. And once I was sitting in a booth with them, somebody was talking, and I wasn't really big enough to really take all that in, or what they were saying, but all of a sudden all the guys started to put napkins on their heads. And I looked at my dad and said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, we're trying to protect ourselves from the lightning because that guy over there is lying like it." You know? They were funny, and they were fun, and they were always nice to me.
Beyond writing, what lessons did your dad teach you about curiosity and integrity? Is integrity something that they even use in newsrooms anymore? I'm sorry, I had to just get that in there.
I don't know if it is anymore. I'm pretty disappointed in the way that the news industry has gone, because when I was in the news business, integrity was everything. If you didn't have integrity, you didn't have anything. And I still feel that way. You need to have integrity in order to be able to teach people. They need to be able to trust you and believe what you say. And that was long before clickbaits.
Yeah.
You know, long before we were worried about how many people would visit our website. And we really focused on the news and on integrity.
Did you go to work there after?
I did not work at the Salt Lake Tribune. Okay. I did work at the Ogden Standard-Examiner and the Lakeside Review, and I worked at Hill Air Force Base, the Hub. Not the Hub. I can't remember what the Hill Air Force Base newspaper is, but it'll come to me. I worked in their public relations office. I also worked at the Defense Depot, Ogden, Utah, in their public relations office. Oh, it was the Hilltop Times at Hill Air Force Base and the Hub at DDOU. And that was my first experience really working full-time in a kind of a news setting, but it was public relations, and that taught me what to expect to happen when a journalist called. It really gave me a really good look at the other side, because when somebody called one of those public relations office, everybody jumped. They were very careful about the information that they disseminated from those locations. And that was fascinating for me to watch, but I didn't like it because I liked, can I say, real journalism? I wish that I had stayed in public relations because it paid a lot more money, but my heart was in journalism, and that was a great adventure for me to learn about public relations and how it all works. My father loved it and he hated it. He told me one time, years after he retired, that journalism is a young man's game. And also, when I went to work as an editor for the Spectrum in Cedar City, Utah, I was also an editor for the St. George office. But I went to him complaining one time about somebody that, made me upset. And he said, "Donna, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen." So I didn't ever complain to him again, but he was always giving me great advice. And
So how great is that? Because my dad, I went to work for AT&T, and my dad had worked there.
Oh, good.
So I always had, for that matter, after he died, I would come home at night. I had a long drive back home, and something happened that day, and I was like, I got to call Dad and tell him about it.
Yeah.
Because he would have understood. And so it's interesting kind of following a parent's footsteps.
It is. One time I won a writing contest when I was in high school, and I took what I wrote to my dad and told him that I'd won, and I won $125, which was a lot of money at that time for me. And he took a picture of the check, and then he went through and he edited my paper, put little squiggly editing marks. And I was so hurt because he didn't gush all over me for winning that prize. But then a couple months later, I walked into the Tribune newsroom, and a bunch of people came over to me and said, "Are you the one? Are you the one that won that prize?"
Oh, yeah.
Because he had been there bragging about me.
Oh, that's great, huh?
Yeah, and so I came to understand that he was telling me he was proud of me by editing my paper. And I came to understand a little more about how journalists think, and to him, that was a high honor. So that was fun.
Well, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
I love that. Calling, you said you were sitting at Tuacahn when everything became quiet and you heard the words, "Write the book."
Okay.
So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was working for the Center for Media Innovation at Dixie State College, and we were putting on a broadcast, or not a broadcast, but rather a show at Tuacahn with none other than Wayne Newton, and we all had to participate. And my part in the final preparations was to drive around and pick up a couple of authors. I picked them up, and we were driving to the amphitheater, and we discussed their books and how they got into publishing and book writing. And I was just so interested in what they had done. And we got to the amphitheater, and they went their own way, and I sat up in the balcony, and I was sitting there, and all of a sudden the clouds, in my mind, the clouds just opened up. It was kind of a cloudy day, and I heard, just as clear as if you were talking to me today, I heard, "Write the book." And I didn't have any question about what the book was about, even. I had a childhood experience, several childhood experiences of sexual abuse, and I knew at that time that was something, I had learned so much about that it was something that I needed to address for myself, but also for other people who had not had the opportunity to understand what those kinds of traumatic events do to people in childhood. Because so often when we're young, our minds are not equipped to process what happens to us. And so we develop beliefs and understandings that are not necessarily accurate, and they do not serve us in adulthood. I'll give you an example. I had an extended family member that had abused me for years, really, and he was a person that had, at that time they called it mental retardation. He was the youngest of a family of 6 children, and those people were very protective of him. My grandmother let everybody know, nobody picks on him, nobody bothers him, you don't say anything mean to him. And so they all kind of wrapped around him as like a family cocoon, kind of, and everybody protected him right up until the day he passed away just recently. As a child, I somehow instinctively knew that to say anything would be very disruptive to the family, and it might get me in trouble because I was tattletaling on him. Don't get me wrong, my family was, I had a wonderful family. Time at my grandma's house was just like going to Disneyland. It was wonderful. But I would look around and I would say, I'm hurting here, and nobody even notices that. And so from that, I took that I was not important. I didn't matter. I didn't matter as much as he did, certainly, and I just didn't matter. Well, so I carried that into adulthood, which became an issue of self-esteem, and I carried that belief for years and years and years until one day I sat down and I really looked at it and I said, was that true? Is it true that nobody cared about me? No, that wasn't true. They all cared about me. They just didn't know. And I didn't have the words or the wherewithal to tell them. I can remember sitting, and my sister was involved, and she's passed away now, but I can remember sitting in sitting on the grounds of Primary Children's Hospital while my sister went in there to have counseling. She was probably 6 or 7 because she was really struggling. But I didn't know to tell them what was going on. And I will always believe that is why she was struggling, but I don't think she knew it either.
Did you know it was wrong?
I don't think I did. It was uncomfortable for me. He didn't smell nice. It was really irritating. And so my sister and I would go to spend time at Grandma's house, but we would always plot how we were going to get rid of him before, when he came into the room, and he always did. But I didn't really know that something really bad had happened to me until I was 25 years old. When I sat down and looked at it, I had a therapist say to me, "You are so angry. What is the matter with you? You got to go home and figure out what is the matter with you." And so I was going to college at Weber State University, and I went to a beautiful restaurant there, and I ordered a cup of coffee and a glass of water, and I sat down and I started to write about that and other experiences that I had had. And I realized that I don't think I knew that I had been hurt until that moment when I realized just how wrong these experiences were. And it didn't have anything to do with my parents' neglect. It didn't have anything to do with my family's neglect. It had to do with a bad situation and a child's understanding. And when my sister passed away, she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And she passed away at the age of 46, as did my brother at the age of 46. And I believed for a while that I could have saved her if I had been able to tell the people at Primary Children's Hospital what was going on. But I didn't have the words. I just didn't have that I just didn't have the ability to put that into words. And so, again, it's very important that we go back and look at our childhood experiences. It doesn't have to be sexual abuse. It can be any kind of trauma. And learn what beliefs we developed during that time and carried with us into adulthood that no longer serve us. And if people will do that, I think that they will see that a lot of the things they believe about themselves just aren't accurate because they haven't ever really stopped to give themselves a break.
Writing this in your memoir, is this a memoir or a guidebook?
I call it a creative memoir because the first section is the day that and it was years after I finally understood that something really bad had happened to me. And it was about the day that I went in to talk to a therapist and I said, I have figured out this is bull. This is BS. You know, there were so many things like that happened. I had gone to a bishop to talk to an LDS bishop about what was going on, and he told me I could be forgiven. And
you could be forgiven?
That's what he told me, that I could be forgiven. And
I heard that right.
You did, yeah. Yeah. But
did he understand what you were telling him?
I don't think so. I think that I went in there and told him that I was bad. At the time, I thought that God would tell him what I needed and what to say because I believed that men of God could hear God, you know. And I was probably 15 when that happened. And in retrospect, I'm sure that I didn't come out and say what I was trying to tell him. And he told me the story about the one sheep that wanders from the flock and, you know, welcome back to the flock. And I was like, oh, but what about them? You know, in my head, I was thinking, what about them? And so I walked away thinking that my belief was verified. It was my fault. And I understand now that it wasn't. And so that is what the first half of the book is about, me going in and talking to the therapist and what I told him. I was very, very angry at that time. And I laid everything out. I laid out what I learned in each incidents of abuse and how I kept getting trapped in that. The next part is about telling people, you can do this too. You can take a look, you can backtrack, and you can change your thinking by cutting yourself some slack, realizing the stories that you have told yourself all these years, you might be looking at them from a child's perspective. And it might be time for you to go back and really analyze that and decide, are you really a bad person? Well, no. You know, was it really your fault? Well, let's look at all the evidence. And so that's what the second part of the book is about. The third part of the book is about my life now. I went through a very difficult period where my sister died. My best friend, my ex-husband found my best friend dead on the side of the road. My 5-year-old nephew was killed in a terrible car accident. And my father died of pancreatic cancer. It was totally unexpected. It was like 3 weeks from diagnosis to death. And then my brother took his own life. And my daughter woke up next to her husband, dead in bed. He was 26 years old. My mother, after my brother took his life, she developed dementia, and so I was caring for her for 4 years. I was diagnosed with cancer, went through a terrible divorce. And the day that my daughter and I went to spread my son-in-law's ashes in New York, because that's where he wanted us to do that, my mother died. A year to the day of when my son-in-law died. So it's about how I use, the third part is about how I use the information that I learned from going back and retracing the beliefs that I had developed about myself to survive that. No, it wasn't my fault that my sister died. You know, you ask yourself a lot of questions that are based on childhood beliefs.
Holy moly, Donna.
Yeah, it's been
went through a lot of grief.
It's been a difficult ride for sure. But I'm okay. And
Well, you have a smile on your face here, so that's
yes, I'm okay. And I guess that is ultimately the message of the book. And it's called Freedom or Freight Train because I take it from a perspective of being caught in a maze of our own making because we put up these walls that we think are protecting us, and then we can't get over them because we don't realize we built them and we can take them down. When you see the light at the end of the tunnel, you have to ask yourself, is that the light of freedom? Or am I seeking relief in drugs and alcohol and destructive ways? Is that light that I'm seeing really a freight train coming at me because I'm feeling some relief, but I don't realize that I'm putting myself in serious danger to get away from what I'm feeling. In the end, I realized that it isn't freedom or a freight train because the light was always in me. I want other people to be able to come to that conclusion as well.
When's the book come out?
I believe it'll come out in the end, or in May of 2027.
Okay, so you have a real publisher.
Not yet, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I have applied for some grants so that I can pursue that, and we'll see. I finally just, every time I struggle, I will pray and I'll be like, what can I do? And I get write the book. Yeah, write the book. So I decided I would write the book to move on, honestly. And
so what did it feel like? Are you done?
With the book?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. So there's edits to come.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What did it feel like when you finished the bulk of it?
It felt like maybe I would be throwing somebody a life raft.
Okay.
Like maybe somebody would be able to read my book and say, I've never really thought of it that way. That's never occurred to me. Maybe I was wrong about what I believe about myself and about others. Maybe I'm right, but really when we're children, the people around us are the mirrors we look into and the reflection we see from those people and the way they treat us and talk to us. That's the only image we have. That's the only image of ourselves that we see. And my mirror looked like nobody really gave a darn about me and that I didn't matter, which was not the image that they wanted to project me, but it was what I saw. And in adulthood, we need to look into, we need to be our own mirror and be able to have faith and strength and knowledge about who we really are and what we really believe about ourselves. And that's why I believe it took me so long to actually write the book, because I think that there was still a lot more to come that I did not anticipate. I worked for the Cedar City Area Chamber of Commerce, and one day I was sitting there. Mayor Jerry Sherritt was talking. I organized a lot of events throughout the year, and my sister had died not too long before. He was talking, the lights were low, and I was so tired that I thought I was going to fall into my plate. I was so exhausted. And I just heard, it's time. You take care of your family, and I'll take care of you. But I didn't know that my family was going to die. And they did, all of them except for one brother. And that was not something I had anticipated, but I've always felt like I have, in a way, been protected because of that agreement that I made in my mind with the Lord at that time.
Where's your brother live?
I have one brother, and he lives west of Cedar City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So still close.
Yeah. Yeah.
Journalism versus author. So you've written thousands of articles professionally.
Yes.
How different is writing that from your heart compared to writing for a deadline?
It's very different, but I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever written anything that was not from my heart.
Okay.
Because journalism was important to me, almost as important as the people that I wrote about, the community events that I wrote about, the hard news that I wrote about, and all of that was from my heart, and I learned every day. But this is personal, and from my perspective, it really requires a lot of bravery. And for a long time, I didn't know how the book ended, but now I do. And it is that we have to be our own light in the tunnel, and we built those brick walls, and we can take them down.
Well, it sounded like you started the book before there was
20 years ago.
The ending hadn't happened yet.
Right. 20 years ago, I started the book, and I would go back to it, but it was too emotional for me. It made me angry and sad, and I had a lot of different emotions that would come up, and I was raising children. I have 4 children and 10 grandchildren, and my life was chaos. I worked full time. I was a journalist. I was a mom. I had 4 different kids in 4 different schools, and so I could not afford the emotional tax that I had to pay in order to write that book during that time. I had to be spot on. I had to keep moving. And now all my children are grown up, and I am divorced, and I have the opportunity to sit down and do this, and the timing for me was perfect.
What version of software did you start writing it on versus the version that it's at now?
I've changed versions over the year.
Or was it originally on typewriter?
No, but I have written a lot on a typewriter. My Weaver State College didn't even get a computer lab until my senior year in college. And so that is how I started, on a typewriter. But I started in Microsoft Word, and now I use Google Docs because I like the editing program there better.
Okay, so there hasn't been a time where you went in horror, oh my God, I'm going to lose this because this software platform isn't available.
No. No, I have changed computers a lot.
Oh, I'll bet in 20 years?
Yeah, not as much as I should have. I changed computers a lot, but I did, once the cloud came into being, I was able to, move it with me, knowing that I would always knowing that I would come back to it.
Okay. We have such a serious subject, and here I take us off into this technology.
Yeah, it is a serious subject, but also it's okay. It's okay to reevaluate your history and to readjust your beliefs and your thinking, and it's actually pretty cathartic to do that. Doesn't mean that you won't fall back into old beliefs and old patterns and old ways of thinking, but at least you finally once you go through that process, you finally understand. And the other part of that I enjoy about the book is that it addresses support people. Like, for example, the bishop. He could have done a better job by asking me questions instead of immediately telling me that I could be forgiven, which I know was his best intentions, but he wasn't properly trained to handle a situation like that. And so I've had people disclose to me that are close to me, and I didn't handle it well. And so it's important to me that support people have a place to go so that they can understand what it does to a person when you say, well, what were you wearing? You shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. Or there are a lot of cruel things that people say, not even knowing that they're cruel. And so my book addresses that too.
Want to talk about AI?
Sure. I love AI, and I hate it too.
Okay, I think that's good because that's the same way I feel.
Is it?
But when we started this podcast back 4 years ago, you didn't want to bring up AI to people because everybody hated it. There's nobody that liked it, and I think now that I don't want to tell you what I think about it.
Well, you're welcome to tell me. I'm interested in what you think about it.
It's a tool.
Yes, it is. I did blogging and page content and marketing writing for a top producing real estate agent in Salt Lake City for 16 years because it allowed me to work remotely and take care of my mother and my family. And that was a real blessing to me when that came along. And one day he called me and he said, okay, Donna, I'm going to change your life. And he showed me ChatGPT. And I said, oh my God, this could replace me. And he said, it just did.
What he said?
He was joking, but not really.
Yeah.
And within about 6 months, I had less and less work. And as a writer, it's pretty grim out there to be able to get work because, especially in the blogging industry and the SEO content industry, it's hard to get work that pays anything at all because either people have turned to AI to do it or they've turned to people overseas that'll do it for $6 an hour. Huh. And so that's something that I'm really grappling with right now. But on the other hand, it has been just invaluable to me in organizing this book, and I refer to it very often, or not refer to it, but rather I go to AI very often when I have something in my head that I can't quite figure out, and it helps me to organize my thoughts. I don't use it to write things because I want to be the writer. That's my role. But I do use it to edit things, to organize, and so sometimes to create images. I use it for that a lot. I'm so sorry about the way communities are being affected by data centers. I hate that about it. I don't know. Is the trade-off worth it? We lived all those years without it, but we're not going to live without it anymore.
No, we're not. It's here. We can say, no, we don't want it all we want, right. But it's here.
Yeah, and I'd be lying
just
if I
said
the
printing press came,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And so it's a hard dilemma because there's so much that it can do for you. And I will tell you this, that people can reject it. It's like the calculator. It's like, any piece of technology that you can think of. Yeah. You can reject it, but you'll be left behind. And so writers who are struggling, and I know that there are a lot. I used to work for a company called textbroker.com. You could go on there, and at any time there were 100 different assignments, and you could just pick. There are no assignments now because they're not getting the business. That's what I'm assuming the reason is. And maybe I shouldn't have called them out. They were a great company to do work for. But if you're a writer or any business person that feels replaced by AI, it is your responsibility to get with the program and figure out how AI can assist you, not replace you. And I'm here to tell you that you can produce 10 times faster. The research, as long as you double check it.
You do want to double check. Yes, it does lie.
Right.
And I caught it lying once.
Did you?
And you know what it told me?
What?
And I'm not the only one that's told this. I was just trying to please you.
Really?
That's what ChatGPT told me.
Really?
I was just trying to please you.
Wow. I've never had it say anything like that to me.
Oh, I asked it.
Did you?
I said, you lied to me about this. This is incorrect. I said, well, I was just trying to please you.
I've corrected it before, And it'll say, oh, you're right. Let me go back and fix that. And also, I've had it quote me before. When I wrote for so long for the Utah real estate producer, and eventually it started to quote myself back to me. And so that was kind of fun. But you're right. You have to have a certain level of common sense. You have to be able to know, no, I don't think so. And you have to have the ability to do your own research and double check, which I've developed over a lot of years because AI is very new. I did my research in my young journalism days at the library with the Dewey Decimal System, you know.
Yes.
And so
table of contents.
Yes. I love it and I hate it at the same time, but I know that if I don't get with it, and it's the cell phones. A lot of seniors don't want to learn how to use cell phones, and that's okay, but you're really missing out.
Well, it gets down to a lot of it's not okay anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because we were just talking to the Judy and Vanessa at the library the other day. There's people who come in now because the cell phone is the only way that they can register for something. You know, the doctor's office and things like, how do I do it?
Right. And at the internet, on the internet too, you can't, now you can go on the internet and pay your taxes and register your car and do all kinds of things. The older I get, the harder it is for me to learn some new things. And I think is just life. But also, I would encourage people to be brave, because if you reject something that is already here and it's just going to be in our lives more and more, then you will be left behind.
Yeah, it's funny last night because my wife, I'm 74, she's turning 71 in a couple of days, and she said, "Well, did you have to go to the DMV?" And I said, "Yeah, my last one I had to go to the DMV." "Well, why?" I said, "Because I'm old now, and they want to check my eyes." So, and she found out just last night that next time her license expires soon. She's got to go to the DMV.
Because she's old now.
Yeah.
We're all old now.
Yeah. So when you get over 70, I guess, they want to check your eyes again.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this about AI then. Is there anything, do you believe, that technology can never replace?
The human touch. AI couldn't write this book that I'm writing. It doesn't have the points of reference that I have. It doesn't. It can certainly help with checking spelling and organization and those kinds of things, but it isn't ever going to replace the books that are in my mind or your mind. You know, I guess you could write a book with AI. I know that several people do. But when you do that, whether it's a paper or a book or anything, when you do that, it robs you of the experience to shine a light inside and explore what you believe, what you see. If it's fantasy, your creative side, your experiences, your knowledge, it's not ever going to replace that. And so it's critical that we learn the human pieces that we can offer that enhance AI so that we're not replaced, because it will never replace your heart or my heart or the knowledge that we've gained over the years or the experience or the wisdom that we have, you know, and you have to be careful how you talk to it for sure. And you have to know the answer before you ask the question.
It remembers everything.
It does. It does. Yeah.
And it tells you.
Yeah.
I'll ask, because I use it a lot to get questions for guests just like yourself. And it'll be like, "Oh, Steve, this would be the best podcast ever."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the best idea you've ever had, it'll say. I'll be like, "I've had 30 different ideas." And you've told me that every time.
Yes.
I appreciate you being supportive, but could you be honest, you know?
Donna's is just going to be such a great... Well, I already know that.
Right.
If you could have lunch with anyone, dead, alive, who would it be?
My dad. I miss both my parents, but Okay, first of all, 'cause I don't want to sound like ultra religious or anything, but I'd love to have lunch with Jesus Christ and say, what the heck?
Yeah, you can have a serious. We're going to have a real serious conversation.
Yeah, but if my dad and Christ and I could all sit down to lunch, that would be
that's
great.
okay. You can add a third.
Yeah, and my mom too, because she was great. She hasn't been gone less time than my dad has, and so it's a little bit hard for me to really get into her too much right now because I'm still pretty tender about it. But my dad, he was the smartest person I ever knew, because, or I believed that he was, because he wrote so much about so many different subjects. Every time a journalist writes an article, they learn something. You know, I would write about the environment and interview Mr. Babbitt back when he was,
I remember.
you know, just anything that I ever wrote, I learned something about it. And he was like the reference desk at the Salt Lake Tribune. He could tell you anything about anything, and he knew everybody. But he did eventually quit and go herding sheep, which was kind of a fun...
Really?
He did, yeah, he did. He said, I've had enough. Journalism is a young man's game. I'm done. And he got a job herding sheep. And then eventually he bought his own herd of sheep and became a sheep rancher.
Wow.
And so at his funeral, when we talked about his days of journalism, he worked at the Tribune for years and years. And he was also an editor. His name was Grant Messerly. And he was also an editor for The Spectrum. He was just really smart and wise. My mother was all those things, too. But my dad and I had a special relationship, and I was, of course, his favorite of all of his 4 children. and maybe they'd all 4 tell you that. I adored him and loved the time that he and I spent alone driving and talking, and he would espouse his wisdom, and I miss that a lot. So...
Well, if it's anything like my dad died 39 years ago, but he's right here.
Absolutely.
And I can still call on him for advice every now and then. Yeah. He's rather surprised because as a 16-year-old, I wouldn't take any of advice. But,
right.
You know, now that he's past 39 years, I can take his advice. It only cost me a tear, but then I got a smile. So I'm sure your dad is right there for you.
My dad spanked me one time in my life.
My dad, too.
And he cried the whole time. And the tears hurt me way more than the spanking. Yeah. I was a teenager by then, and you know, in all honesty, I was probably really a brat. And I'm sure that I deserved the spanking, and it broke his heart to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So, I know what I was going to say was at his funeral, we talked about all of his journalism experience and everything, and at the end, people came up to us and said, "Are you talking about Grant?" They had no idea that he was a major Utah journalist for a lot of years. But when he left it behind, he left it all behind. And he made a whole nother life in the agricultural industry. Oh. And people loved him because he was charming and fun and interesting to talk to. But a lot of people didn't ever have any idea. So I would love to have lunch with him.
And I think you're not the only one.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Like, not your dad, but
I know. I'm sure everybody would feel that way.
And it would be great.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, because I imagine that I think listening to you a little bit, imposter syndrome, and I know I have imposter syndrome.
Yeah, me too.
Do you ever do anything where you say, you pat yourself on the back and say, Donna, this was pretty darn good. You did good.
Yeah, I do that. I do. I'm harder on myself more than I pat myself on the back. And I'm very familiar with imposter syndrome, and I felt that way a lot when I was much younger. But you know what? When I look back, I got a lot of very important things done for my community and my state and my children, my family. And I've done all right. And now it's my time, and I want to make the best of that. What
has inspired you this week?
My spirituality is really important to me. And what inspires me, because, writers are all going through kind of a hard time. What inspires me is just when I get to the point where I say, I can't do it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I am too tired. Then something comes into my life, like this podcast. I feel that way about this podcast. Something comes into my life to remind me of who I am and what I've done and what I have to offer the world. And that inspires me.
And thank you. You just gave me a nice thing.
Yeah, it really does. It's wonderful to have somebody care who you are or what you've done or what you've lived and what you still hope to accomplish. That's really a huge boost. It is.
Yes.
So.
And you'll have people from 94 countries, because we just got our 94th country the other day.
I just want everybody to consider the possibility that they need to look back and double check the beliefs that they have about themselves and just check themselves and make sure that they're looking at it from an adult perspective and not a child's perspective. Things have changed. Yeah.
Even as much as we all want to be a child still.
Right. And therein lies the danger. If we keep seeing ourselves in the same mirror we looked in as children, then we can't enjoy the blessings of adulthood.
That's true. But I would like to look in that mirror sometime and see that I have hair.
Yeah, right?
That would be very.
Yeah.
I'd be very happy to see.
I gained a little weight
And
since I
I'd
was
rub
5.
my eyes and it would be gone. And
Yeah.
Donna was just kidding. Do you have social media or anything that you want people to find you at?
I have a website. It's called yourcontentqueen.com. I named it that because it's quality website copy that rules. And I started that business when I left the Chamber of Commerce back in about 2008, and I'm just really working on building that up. It has a lot of my blogging. I blog a lot about AI, and it also has a lot of my work that I have done. I have a lot of clips and stuff like that on there. So it's been fun to build, and I'm also going to add a page about local authors on there.
Good.
So.
Donna, thank you very much for coming in here on a Saturday yet.
Oh, every day's the same to me now. Once you get semi-retired.
Yes, every day is.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for having me, and it was a great experience for me, and I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. We'll be seeing you around town.
I'm sure, yeah.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Art Box Podcast. We're recording from our home studio inside the Mesquite Steam Center, right here in the beautiful Mojave Desert, where creativity and curiosity meet under wide open skies. From the written word and poetry to collage, brush art, pencil, ink, fabric, and pottery, from theater and song to archaeology in our public lands, we celebrate the many ways creativity shows up in the world around us. You can find us on Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Boomplay, or your favorite podcast app. We'd love to hear from you. Find us at theartboxpodcast.com. Drop us a note anytime at artboxvv@gmail.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, and subscribe. And don't forget to tell your friends so they can join the conversation too. Most importantly, take a moment to follow and support the artists and creative souls who join us here, because their stories are what make the Art Box come alive. This is Daisy, and until next time, keep creating, keep exploring, and keep sharing your story.